motivated and change your socks. Hey!
The Lost Art with Andrew Cox podcast. Marine Corps League and Till Valhalla Project Ambassador. Now streaming on all major podcast platforms. Thanks for tuning in to the podcast that's given a voice to our veterans. The Lost Art with Andrew Cox.
Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lost Art Podcast, that podcast giving a voice to our veterans. I'm your host, Andrew Cox, and today we're having a fireside chat with a special guest. But before we get into the episode, or you enjoying the podcast, make sure you hit up the website. That's thelostart.podbean.com. Go check us out, see what we're all about. If there's anything there, or there's a merchandise tab there, you can click on. You can go get you some cool gear. You can get you a shirt, maybe a hat, something like that. But anything you get helps support us and getting our veteran voices out for all to hear. Also, a big shout out to the Till Valhalla Project. They're out there doing some amazing, amazing things. If you don't know anything about that organization, go to their website, check them out. That's tillvalhallaproject.com.
Major Lee Stuckey. We've been blessed to bring in thousands and thousands of veterans and first responders and save hundreds from suicide. We don't want to be a handout, and we want to be a hand up with our four pillars, which are physical, financial, emotional, and for me, most importantly, spiritual, and give them a good, healthy foundation in a safe, sober environment for a 4-day event.
Are you a Marine veteran? Are you missing that bond you had on active duty? Then I have a place for you. Join the only congressionally chartered Marine Corps veteran service organization, the Marine Corps League. Get that brother and sisterhood back in your life. Become one of the fewer, the prouder, a Marine Corps League member.
All right, we're back here. I got one of the crew here. I got Mike. Mike, how you doing? Oh, I don't know what he's doing. He's flashing back and forth. He's trying to figure out his camera. He doesn't know what's going on. Okay. How you doing?
Yeah, everything went squirrely there for a second. I was like, what the heck? You were there, and then I disappeared, and I could hear you talking, and then it all just went black. I'm doing good, Andrew. Been a busy week.
Very nice. Yeah.
It's obviously, the week after you come back from vacation is always
hectic.
To say it kindly is always a turd. So there we go.
Yeah. I like it. All right. Well, we got our special guest here. This is Scott Redd, Lieutenant Colonel retired with Wings of Valor. So how you doing, Scott?
I'm doing very well. Thank you.
It's great to have you here. We were saying earlier how I just kind of found you on Facebook and shot a message out, and here you are. So it worked out really well.
Good. I'm glad you reached out. Yep. We're always happy to tell our story.
Absolutely. Well, let's hear a little bit about you and a little bit of your history. And where did you grow up? What drew you to military service?
Well, I grew up a Navy brat. My dad was a submariner. Met my mom in San Diego. She was a South Dakota girl looking to expand and get out of the state, and they met there. And I spent most of my childhood moving around, mostly on the East Coast, different Navy bases, South Carolina, Maryland. And whenever my dad went out to sea, my mom would load my brother and I up and haul us back to South Dakota because that was her home. So,
wow.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time at Grandma and Grandpa's in South Dakota, so I can't complain. South Dakota is my home. That's where I'm currently at, and love it here. So I finished high school after my dad retired in South Dakota and went on to play ball in college, basketball, baseball, and then got out of college and wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I was a PE teacher. Let's put it this way. I crammed a PE degree into 5 years, so I probably wasn't the most astute academically I could have been. So I thought maybe I'll join the service and pay off some student loan. I had some debt, seemed unsurmountable at the time. Now it seems like nothing, but I wanted to join the Navy because Top Gun had just come out It was the early 80s.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I want to wear that white ice cream suit, and I want to be in the Navy. And went to see the recruiter, and it just didn't work out. And the Army had better benefits, so I enlisted in the Army as a Korean linguist.
Wow.
Yeah. 국방 외국어 대학에서 한국말 응용 동안 공부했어요. I went to the Defense Language Institute after basic training and studied Korean for a year, and then went to Voice Interceptor School in Goodfellow Air Force Base. Right now, all the MI stuff's in Fort Huachuca, but back then the Voice Interceptor School was at Goodfellow Air Force Base in San Angelo, Texas.
Now, I'm going to ask a question because I don't know this. What is the Voice Interceptor School? What is that?
98. It's the MOS for the Army is 98 Golf. At least it was back then. And that we were the guys that we would go. Technically, our job would have been if there was a conflict with North Korea, we would be sitting on a mountain or somewhere intercepting North Korean messages and interpreting them and getting them to whoever needed to make tactical decisions based on what we were able to intercept. So yeah, I was a Voice Interceptor Korean linguist, went to radio jammer school, and my basic and AIT lasted 2 years. Once it was finally over. Yeah, it was a long, not you weren't there for a good time. You were there for a long time. That's for sure.
How long was your contract for?
4 years. So
it was. Wow.
Yep. So I got stationed at Fort Ord, California, which is no longer, I mean, you'll talk to guys that were in the Vietnam War. They go, oh yeah, I went through basic training down there stuff, but it's closed now. Yeah. Never went to Korea. They stationed me at Fort Ord, California. Yeah. And then I decided, well, I got a college degree. Maybe I'll go to officer candidate school. Applied, got accepted, went to officer candidate school, and lo and behold, the Army made me an engineer and sent me to Germany. So, yeah, I don't know if I'm the only school-trained Korean linguist that's never stepped foot in Korea, but possibly could be.
I'd say there's a strong possibility.
Yeah. After all that schooling and all that study, and I mean, there were a good example of how well your brain can get trained to learn a language. There were 17 of us in our class at Goodfellow Air Force Base when we were in Voice Interceptor School, and we had a list of 360 words that were encoded that we had to decode into Korean and then interpret into English. And because it was all secret, everything we did was secret. It was all clearance, compartmentalized clearance. So we had to do it in a skiff. So we went in Friday night with our list, studied Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. Monday morning, we took the test, and out of 17 in our class, not one person missed one word on the test. Had it completely memorized because your brain's just so.
Wow.
I mean, remember I told you I crammed a PE degree into 5 years. I'm not a genius, that's for sure. So yeah, I was ready to go into the Army and be a linguist. I decided to go to officer candidate school. I thought they'd keep me military intelligence because of all of that, but nope, they made me an engineer, sent me to Germany, and I had a great tour in Germany for about a year after airborne school, some other schooling, officer basic course. Went to Germany as a second lieutenant. Then the first Gulf War broke out, and I remember telling my wife at the time, yeah, we've got a mission in Europe. There's no way they would send us to Saudi Arabia. Well, showed you how much I do. So I actually got to go the first Gulf War as a second lieutenant. Had a great platoon sergeant that kept me under good. He kept me safe. I probably would have done a lot of stupid stuff back then, but he kept me safe and all of our soldiers safe. And we trained for a pretty intense war that never really transpired, which God bless. We never had to see what we thought we were going to. Honest to God, it was actually kind of fun because you want to talk about the proverbial fat kid in a candy store. They gave us a trailer full of explosives, sent us out in the desert and said, blow up all the abandoned Iraqi equipment. And that's what we did for weeks on end. We would go out and just blow up equipment. It was
Well, that's not a bad job right there. That's just
No.
loads of fun blowing stuff up.
Yeah. So we got back from the first Gulf War, and they decided they're going to downsize Europe. So our unit got downsized to Fort Benning, Georgia. We packed up everything and moved lock, stock, and barrel to Fort Benning, Georgia, home of the infantry. We became 3rd Brigade of the 4th ID out of Fort Stewart, but we were at Fort Benning.
Right.
Finished there, went to the officer advanced course, and then I got a chance to go on to Hawaii and do my company command, which was pretty neat.
Very nice.
Yeah. I was living life well. We worked long hours, but when you live in Hawaii, when you do get some time off, it's very enjoyable. The weather's always nice.
So you didn't have Aloha Fridays? That's what I always hear about.
Oh yeah,
Aloha Friday. You get off early and everybody goes to the beach and has a barbecue. That's what I always hear.
Yeah, that happened for a lot of soldiers. If you're in company command, if your motor pool's in order and everybody's staying out of trouble, then sometimes you get that. That's where I learned the very famous acronym. I didn't even know it was an acronym. When we got a day off, they called it an adanza. I thought, I don't know if that's some kind of Hawaiian word. No, it's a day of no scheduled activities. That's an acronym. Adanza. That's a great Hawaiian term too, and they still use it. I got a buddy whose kid's a major over there now at Schofield Barracks, and he was talking to me one day, and he said, "Oh yeah, we got a 4-day Adanza coming up," and I said, "Oh my God, you still use that term? That's just crazy." They have no scheduled activity. Remember that one, Mike. Next time somebody needs you to do something, it's like, sorry, I've already got that Adanza scheduled for that day.
That's right.
Yeah.
I
did Hawaii 2 years, and then I got assigned after the they call it the career command course. Now back then it was CAS Cube, to South Dakota, Rapid City, South Dakota, as an advisor to a National Guard unit. There was myself, an E8 and 4 E7s, and we were advisors to the engineer unit in South Dakota. So did that for a couple of years, and then I taught ROTC and School of Mines in Rapid City and Black Hills State for a couple of years. Those in the military, in the Army especially, after company command, when you're a major, you get a couple of years of, I don't want to call them cush assignments. We worked hard, but they were pretty slack. Did that for a couple of years, and then decided I got a call from my branch manager. He said, "How would you like to go to Washington, D.C. and work on the Pentagon renovation project?" I went, wow, I don't even know what that is, but sounds good to me. So packed up, moved to Washington, D.C. or Northern Virginia, and I was working at the Pentagon. And lo and behold, I was there on 9/11 when the plane hit the building. So I didn't miss all the excitement there. I was right across the street in our construction trailers. I had a great project. I was remember the PE teacher from South Dakota is now an engineer, and they put me in charge of a $22 million tunnel that would bring Potomac River water through the chillers at the heating refrigeration plant and then dump it back out into the Potomac River. The old tunnel was damaged, so they gave me that project. So I was working on that project when the building got hit. On September 12th, I was sitting right outside the big hole in the side of the Pentagon with a whole bunch of real engineers, civil and mechanical, that were trying to figure out if we could fix the building or if we just needed to tear it all down and rebuild it from scratch. So that area, anyway. So that was the final decision, was we're going to tear out where the plane hit and rebuild it from ground up. And it took 1 year to get all that damage and fixed. People showed up from all over the United States with a toolbox or a truck of tools and said, "Put me to work. I'm ready." And we worked 24 hours a day. Those guys did for 365 days and rebuilt that hole. So that was kind of cool. And then I'm on leave after all that. And my branch manager calls again and says, "Hey, how'd you like to go back to South Dakota?" I said, "Wow, that's kind of home. I would sure like that." He said, "There's a reserve unit in Sioux Falls that has a position for a active duty major engineer." I said, "Well, that sounds great. Let me hear the but." He says, "Yeah, I can get you there, but I need you to do a year in Kuwait, just a 1 year unaccompanied tour, which I should have probably done earlier in my life as a 1 year unaccompanied tour in Korea, but I never did. So I thought, I've avoided that. So maybe I'll do that. And my wife and I decided, yeah, we can get back to South Dakota. I'm at the end of my career. Maybe this would be a good move. So I went to Kuwait, and we were doing the buildup of forces because the war was imminent. The war was coming. This was early 2002 going into 2003, and we knew the war was coming. So we were doing all the base camps, all the engineer estimates and all the buildup to get all the facilities needed to get all those troops into country before the assault into Iraq. So we did a lot of that. Camp Arifjan, Camp Doha. I mean, those were big projects. Port of Daman. We were doing a lot of projects at the airport or the air base in Kuwait. Getting all that built up, and then when the war hit, when the land assault started or the air war started, my job was virtually done. Our engineer unit were done with the buildup, and the operational guys took over. So we actually worked. We worked 18 or so hours a day, 7 days a week for about 5 months to get everything built. And thought, you know what, there's nothing else to do. I mean, we're on a company, so really there's not a lot to do there. So it wasn't a horrible thing, but it was kind of neat once it was over to kick back and then watch all the operations guys go to work because there's a war going on, and we're done building stuff for now anyways. So they decided that a couple of us needed to go into Iraq to help do assessments for all the stuff we blew up to see if we could reconstitute the Army and rebuild their bases. So I went into Iraq. I remember the day was April 10th, my anniversary, 2003. Flew into, that was the day Baghdad fell, and the Iraqi army had officially surrendered. We flew in. We came in on a C-141 swirling down like this because we didn't have security far enough out of the airport. Kuwait not Kuwait, but Baghdad International Air BIAP. So we flew in, landed. We stayed at the airport for probably about 2 weeks, and we were just trying to get our feet on the ground, figure out what the heck's going on. It was it was chaos. And then we went into the big palace, which is right next to the airport where they have the headquarters now, not the green zone yet. We were still out by the airport. We're in a huge, like 720,000 foot palace that's made of marble and chandeliers with a giant hole in the roof because we blew it up, and we blew up the heating refrigeration plant. And here's a tip for anyone listening. If you ever want to take a country over, don't blow everything up because you're probably going to have to then rebuild it all. So, we did a lot of estimates. The Corps of Engineers was there at the time, which was separate from the engineers at the Coalition Forces Headquarters Command. And the Corps
the Corps of Engineers, that's the civilian group, right?
They are mainly civilian, but they do have a military component as well. So there were guys working out of our building that, even though we all wore the same engineer castles, they had a different command and control than us. And we worked together on a lot of projects, but we were really looking to get general services back up, water running, electricity going. And then I got assigned a cool mission with a 06 colonel and another 05, both Marines, to fly all over Iraq, looking at Iraqi bases that we'd also did a lot of damage to see what we could rebuild to get the Iraqi army reconstituted. They capitulated. They didn't surrender. They capitulated, saying, we're done fighting you. We will now work with you to get our country back. So we were looking at different locations to stand them back up and house them and get them the equipment they needed to be able to defend their country themselves and get us out of there. And luckily for me, those were the early days before ISIS, because nobody really knew what ISIS was at that time. If they did, we didn't know.
Right.
So we're driving around with nothing more than a 9mm in Ford Expeditions because the Iraqis are all happy we're there. We just got rid of Saddam, and they're just loving us. And everywhere we go, they're just, oh, thank you, thank you. You got MRE, thank you. They all wanted food, they were starving. But so we gave out a lot of food and drove around and did all these and flew around in Blackhawks to a lot of sites too, but drove all over. And about 3 months after I left country, which would have been, in late August of 2003, that's when the IEDs started popping up and things started to get really bad. I was very lucky. I got out of there at a good time. Like I said, I drove around the entire country of Iraq in a Ford Expedition with nothing more than a 9mm pistol strapped to my side.
Wow.
Yeah. We were that's how naive we were, but we were, we were seeing a lot. I got to go, see where Nebuchadnezzar and Babylon, and got all the way up to the north, where the Kurds were, and we were all over. So yeah, it was kind of neat to do this. We were working kind of, but we were also seeing a lot and enjoying. Iraq's a very pretty country because there's two, the Tigris Euphrates come together there. I mean, that's the cradle of civilization there. It's a beautiful place when there's not a war going on. So yeah. So anyways, I got done there, and then I got to do my assignment in Sioux Falls. I got back in late August, and my boss said, hey, we were our 5th Army out of Fort Carson, Colorado. That was our headquarters. And actually out of Denver. We weren't out at Fort Carson. Those guys were out of Denver then. Said, yeah, sorry, that reserve unit got mobilized. So take 2 weeks to get reacquainted with your wife and then pack your stuff. You're mobilizing to Fort Carson. So yeah, I got home after being gone one solid year. I got home. I had 2 weeks to say hi to my wife, give my kids a hug, and then I had to pack my stuff, go to Fort Carson.
Whoa.
Luckily, we got some 3 and 4 day weekends so I could drive home. But yeah, that 6 months in Fort Carson then got transferred to 7 months in El Paso. So I spent almost 2 years before I got home to do my job in Sioux Falls. Yeah, that was nuts. That was a long time. Luckily, you marry a good person that can handle that, and it worked out okay. We're still married today, and it worked out good. So she's a sweetheart. God bless her. So yeah, I got here, and then the unit. I did that for another year here in Sioux Falls, and then there's a job. Every state has a senior Army advisor to the National Guard. And I was getting ready to retire as a major. And the second in command of South Dakota Guard knew me and knew I was here and said, hey, can you take the senior Army advisor job? The gal that was supposed to come here got diverted to Afghanistan, I believe. And I called my branch manager, at the time was a buddy that I did command with. He was in Alpha, I was Bravo. And I said, hey, Tom, if I get a by name request, can you assign me as a senior Army advisor? He said, sure. I'll do that for you. Wow. So I did. So then I made lieutenant colonel because I stayed in for 3 more years. I got to stay in Sioux Falls. So honest to God, people that see this that are in the military will probably throw the BS flag, but out of a 25-year career in the Army, I spent 11 of that in South Dakota. And that was all active duty.
Yeah, that's impressive to be in one place. Yeah.
Which is probably why I retired as a lieutenant colonel and not a 06 colonel, because I didn't do battalion command. I chose to stay home, and my wife and I have been in the same house now for 22 years. So it's
wow,
nice. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I retired in 2010, and the rest is history, military wise.
Yeah. So now, once you retired, what was it that you started doing at that point?
Well, believe it or not, my wife had gone to. I was trying to do some financial planning stuff, and I was kind of liking what I was doing, but I didn't really get motivated to do it like I did the military. I was just struggling, and she went to California and saw this neat place there and said, we should build one of these in Sioux Falls. So we bought a Sky Zone trampoline franchise and built it in Sioux Falls. So we own that for
very cool.
Yeah. That was opened in 2013. Took a few years to get a piece of land and build the right building and opened a trampoline park. And we owned Sky Zone for 7 years. And in 2020, we got an offer. Somebody wanted to buy it. So we thought, God, this is our baby. We built this thing from the ground up. But you know what? It might be time to, because retail wears you down. It's retail business. It wears you down a little bit. So we said, well, let's sell it and maybe we'll do something else. Well, that was January of 2020. By February of 2020, the new owner was looking to get PPP loans and keep the business open. Excuse me. So we sold at the absolute perfect time. And then the pandemic was going on, so nobody was really doing anything. And I got really
it wasn't going anywhere.
No, and I got really good at that. So once the pandemic kind of ended, which it didn't really hit South Dakota overly hard, our governor allowed most stuff to stay open, but it was pretty slow. And I got good at being retired. So once that was all over, I just stayed retired. Here I am.
Smart. I like that. Yeah. That's
my wife's still working.
Yeah, well, mine too. I'm retired, and the only thing I do is this podcast, and I do it for fun because I'm not making money on it, so it's all good.
I was sitting in at home one day, and I got a call from a guy I knew that he's a Navy captain who works for our local hospital as like a military liaison, and he called. He said, "Hey, you ever heard of Wings of Valor Lodge?" I said, "No." "Let me take you out there and show you that. I think you're going to like what you see." I said, "Okay, let's have a look." So he took me out there one day and met Bruce Weller, who you'll see on our website. He's the guy that owns the land. Never served in the military, but he does a hell of a service now for a lot of veterans. Met Bruce, turned around. I said, "Well, this is pretty cool. This is neat. I'm retired. I could maybe get into my task list my wife left me to complete, was getting pretty completed. So I can maybe get, let's see what happens. I may get a little involved." It was in September, so hunting season was just getting ready to get kicked off. So that was 2020. So that was still 2020 then. And we had our first couple of hunts that year because the nonprofit was set up in 2019 before I got on board. And now I am on the board, and I am the chief financial officer for Wings of Valor Lodge.
Okay. Well, can you tell us a little bit, what is Wings of Valor Lodge? Like, give us the kind of down and dirty of what that is.
All right. Well, Wings of Valor Lodge is a pheasant hunting lodge. If you look in South Dakota, there's probably, 200-300 pheasant hunting lodges. That's a huge business in South Dakota.
Oh, wow.
Pheasant season is from October through January, and that is a huge, I don't know if they roll that under tourism or not in South Dakota, if that's separate, but it is a huge income source for South Dakota. There are a lot of hunting lodges and a lot of people that fly in and spend a lot of money to hunt pheasants. It's a fun sport, and lodges, a lot of the lodges are really nice. They bring in chefs. They take good care of you. So at Wings of Valor was a hunting lodge. And Bruce had been doing hunts out there, for several years, probably since 2013, maybe 7 or 8 years or more. He'd been doing hunts, maybe longer than that. And once a year, they would do a veteran hunt where they would just invite veterans in, all paid for, donated. And they would, spend the day at the lodge and hunt pheasants. And one of the fellas that came to the hunt was from Georgia. His name's Sean Adams. Sean unfortunately lost both his legs from an IED explosion in Afghanistan, young Marine. And Sean had been there the year before, and then he was there his second year. That was before me. That was 2017 or 18. And Sean and Bruce were riding around one day, and after the veteran hunt, and Sean looked at Bruce and said, "Man, this is a great day." And Bruce goes, "This is the best day of the year for me." He goes, "Absolutely the best day of the year, having all these guys out there." And I'm not sure if Sean said it to Bruce or Bruce said it to Sean, but the comment was made, "Why don't we make every day the best day of the year? Why don't we turn this lodge into a nonprofit organization that hosts veterans, and they can come, we can do this more than once a year." And with the help of Sanford Health, the local hospital, with Paul was there helping out with that. Weckman, he's the guy that I was telling you, the 06 that originally took me out there. They were able to get a donation to get enough and get some help getting the nonprofit started. And that was 2019 when they finally got it all going. So 2020 was our first season of veteran hunts. And we decided early we were going to we're going to fly in about half the veterans will fly in from all over the United States, and the rest, the other half, will get locally, so we don't have to spend a whole bunch on plane tickets. They're expensive. So we can hunt from. We're a preserve. In South Dakota, hunting season is October through January, but we're a preserve, so we can go September through March.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we realized we could do about a hunt every other week and be good at it. Otherwise, we're wearing out people and getting a little too much. So we decided we'd do a hunt every other week. So we start in September, and we realized early that, and I'll tell you all the ins and outs of what goes on, but we realized early that if you get more than 8 or 10 veterans there, if you get 12 or 14, you're going to end up with two groups. Maybe, a group 7 or 5 and a group of whatever, or 6 or 7. So we realized early that 8 to 10 was the sweet spot. That way they're all together. They you don't split off. If somebody's not with the group, you realize it. They can't sneak away and just try and be by it. They're all together. So we try and bring in 8 to 10 veterans, usually 4 or 5 fly in, and then 3 or 4 local, maybe 5 if we have them. But so they fly in on a Thursday. And honest to God, if you've been to our website, www.wingsofvalorlodge.org, the site is beautiful. The location with the flags and the grass and the lodge is just absolutely gorgeous. And there are a lot of people, even from that area, that don't know it's there until they drive by and go, wow, there's this big gate and these flag poles with the flags flying and the lodge in the background. And you just go, I'm driving through, there's a cornfield, there's a bean field, there's another bean, there's another corn. And then all of a sudden, it's over by these trees. And it's actually Wings of Valor Lodge.
Lodge, I can adjust. Here we go. I'm going to fix it.
That. And which we should have
Wings
shortened
of Valor
Lodge.org. Yeah. When you type your email address out, that's on there. I don't know why we didn't. So that's it.
So lodge.org. Okay.
So we fly the veterans, bring the veterans in on Thursday. We pick them up. We got a van that's decked out, Wings of Valor, and we go get them at the airport. A couple of them will drive in. That's okay if they want to drive in, but they have to stay. That's the key. Guy that wants to come and hunt, go home, it's not going to get the full experience. So we go get them at the airport in the van, the guys that fly in. It's a big, nice van, all decked out, Wings of Valor. So it's kind of cool. Very nice. We bring them to the lodge. We feed them supper Thursday night. And then Friday they get up and have breakfast. We do a quick safety brief. And then we built a really nice 5-station clay pigeon shooting facility.
Very cool. So
guys that have shotguns a lot. I mean, around here, shotgun fishing pole are probably standard issue in South Dakota, but not everywhere. So, and guys are used to, an M2 or a Mark 19 or whatever they're handling these days. And back in my day, it was an M16 and an M60, or a 249. But so we get them acquainted with the shotguns. They get out they shoot clay pigeons for an hour or more and just get used to that, what it feels like when you pull the trigger, how to track a moving target with the shotgun. And then we go in, this is Friday, we'll go in and have lunch, a really nice lunch. And then we'll do a safety brief. And then on Friday's kind of unique. We do a tower hunt. We've got a local organization, Biersbach Equipment, donates a really nice lift, construction lift. And if we've got 10 guys, we'll take, probably that's 3 birds a piece at a minimum. So we'll take probably 30 or 40 birds up in the lift in cages. And then we station the guys by hay bales around the tower at a good distance. Depending on the wind, in South Dakota it's windy a lot. We'll put more guys in one area because the birds are going that way. And then we throw the birds up and they fly out. And guys shoot them, which is not shooting fish in a barrel. I'll tell you, it's still tough because you're up high. And the birds are up high. And a lot of times the wind's going, they're going Mach 2 when they're coming by you. But about 60% about an average. They'll shoot birds, and then we have guides and hunting dogs that get all the birds. Guys don't even have to go get the birds after they shoot them. The dogs will go get them and bring them back. So it's fantastic.
Very nice.
We do take all veterans. We are a facility that can accommodate veterans with any mobility impairments. We have tracked wheelchairs, groomed hunting trails. We've got gators that we can run guys around in, side by sides.
I want to take a moment to talk about something important: getting the VA disability rating and benefits you've earned. The VA claims process is overwhelming and can feel like a maze. For a lot of us, just getting started is half the battle. That's where Brookside comes in. Brookside Veteran Services. We've got your six. Brookside has helped tons of veterans, just like you and me, take on the VA claim system with confidence. Whether you're filing for the first time, going through an appeal, or trying to get rating increase, they've got your back. Here's some of what they offer: step-by-step help with your VA disability claim, support with appeals and increases, a personalized approach that respects the unique services and situation, and the best part, no upfront fees. They only get paid when you do. Go see the website, www.helpvetusa.com. Contact Michael Irie, Veteran Services Representative on Facebook, or email michael.helpvetusa@gmail.com or admin.helpvetusa@gmail.com. The bottom line is, you served your country. You earned these benefits. Let Brookside help you get what's yours. Brookside Veteran Services. We've got your six.
So here's a story for you. We had a guy come in. Joey Jones from Fox News was there with a group of guys one time, and his buddy had lost both his arms in Afghanistan, unfortunately. But he was able to hook a harness on his chest and then hook a shotgun to the harness and then run a cable up to his mouth that when he bit down, it would pull the trigger. So he kind of honed in his skills on the trap shooting, and we went out to the field, and this guy actually shot pheasants. He was able to aim that gun and bite down and shoot pheasants. So that kind of thing, when you see that, you realize what an impact we're having on people's lives. Guys that are getting, trying to figure out what they can accomplish in life after losing limbs, and can go out there and say, I can still hunt pheasants. That's huge. That's a big deal. That's
amazing.
Yeah. We have a video.
He's able to figure that out.
Yeah. It was just cool. So anyway, Friday they shoot birds and we bring them all in and get a picture. If you look on the website, you'll see a lot of pictures of groups of guys and a bunch of birds sitting in front of them.
Yeah.
And if you see a bunch of guys and only a couple birds sitting in front of them, that means we had a lot of out-of-state hunters that week that hunt. But
no, what that means is I was there trying to shoot at birds. And, I can shoot a handgun, I can shoot a rifle, but I've never been a good shotgun bird. I can hit something dead on, but trying to lead a bird.
Oh yeah, and
my dad used to get
with the winds blowing.
Yep, my dad used to get so frustrated with me, and I was like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "You can't hit crap."
So we get done, take the picture, then we've got, and it's all volunteers. That's another good point I need to make sure I make. We have no payroll at Wings of Valor. Everybody that works there is a volunteer. Everybody.
Wow.
So we get with the guides, the people cooking the food, everybody. So on Friday we get done shooting, we get the picture, and then all the volunteers go in and they'll clean all those birds in 20-25 minutes and get them vacuum sealed and in the freezer. And then most of the volunteers will go home for the night, and the veterans will go back and relax, and then they have a big dinner at the lodge, spend the night, and then Saturday is very similar. They get up, they have breakfast, they shoot clays, but the hunt is a traditional, what we call a walk and block, where you put everybody on a line and you're walking through the field, and you got blockers on the end, which for military guys is hard because normally you don't walk towards somebody pointing a weapon their direction and they're pointing one back at you. But our safety briefs are so adamant about keeping your gun barrels up. If you don't see sky, let it fly. That's our logo. Our slogan.
That's good. I like that.
And the last thing you want to do is somebody shoot one low and hit somebody or shoot a dog. That would even some guys would rather be shot themselves than get shot and shoot their dog. So they
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
So they do a walk and block that day, and that's good. That's a lot of walking and moving. And if a guy is missing a limb or has mobility issues, he can either choose to roll down the field in a tracked wheelchair. Or we can take them down to the end and they can block if they don't feel comfortable at the tracked wheelchair. They can be a blocker that day. And they normally when a pheasant doesn't want to fly, it wants to run. So when you're walking, you're pushing them all to the end of the field. So everybody's coming together and the birds are getting up. So there's a lot of shooting,
right?
Which is fun. That's the pheasant flurry part. So then we clean get the picture, clean the birds, and then they get a big, that's ribeye dinner night. Saturday nights, a lot of volunteers like to stick around for that one because they know they're getting a nice ribeye dinner. And
I don't blame them. Man, ribeye is the way to go.
Absolutely. If you see any testimonials of the lodge, you'll never see one that ever mentions, boy, I wish they had better food. Those guys usually leave going, oh, my God, I'm going to have to work out when I get home because the food is really good. We take good care of them. So, yeah, they do that. And then Sunday morning, everybody gets up and the guys that drove in leave. And then the other guys, we get them to the airport in time for their flight. So it's a 4-day event. And, the pheasant hunting is the reason to come there. It's the time they spend together, telling their stories, telling their worry. We've got a fire pit right outside the lodge. And that's another important thing. The lodge is 6 suites in the main lodge, and each suite has an ADA compliant room and bathroom. So if a guy needs any of those facilities because of impairments, they can stay. They don't need assistance. And then we've got a second lodge where more of a bunk room. And some of the guys, they may whine a little bit. It's like, wow, how come I didn't get to be in the big lodge? It's like, well, you got to come and it's not so bad. And we're in the process of looking at maybe upgrading that other lodge a little bit too, so it's just as nice. So that's, when you look at a nonprofit organization and the money it takes to run it, doing your mission tends to be the priority, not making everything pretty. So that's out there. Those are those capital improvements you want to get to when you get a little extra cash in the bank.
Right.
It's a constant fundraising thing to keep operation, keep the doors open, and keep the veterans coming. So, if you figure average of 10, 14 hunts a year, every other week, that's, 140 guys coming through there.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And it's good. And they, they get done hunting, they sit around the dinner table and tell stories, and then they finish dinner and they're sitting around the fire pit till, God knows, 2 a.m. I think there's a lot of guys that get out of the military and go home and they miss that. They miss that.
Oh, yeah.
That lure to the VFW and the Legion just isn't there as much anymore. And guys kind of miss that camaraderie. And, that old toast, here's to us and those like us, they just don't have that, those like us at home. And they come to the lodge and they go, wow, this is neat. Here's a good example. Local radio guy owns the radio stations. He's just a great supporter of our program. He came out once. He wanted to watch, what we do when we have veterans there. And these guys are out just giving each other a hard time. You know how veterans can be. You miss a clay and what are you, a Marine? Whatever. You're in the Air Force. You're not. We don't have the heater on. You're probably cold. Whatever. The guys are they're just good at that. And Don, the radio guy, looks at me and he goes, so these guys all served together? I said, what do you mean? He goes, I'm assuming these guys all served in the military together. I said, Don, none of these guys knew each other until they showed up here on Thursday. And he was just amazed at how once you get together and you get that military mind, that camaraderie thing. Yeah, it's amazing. And we have sitting around the fire pit till 2 a.m. We've got an inspiration area too for guys that want to get a little more spiritual. That's an option for them too. We don't push it. We just make it available to them. And they leave and we get phone calls or we get letters from spouses going, I don't know what you guys did, but my husband, or we have a female hunt too, or my wife is not the same person since being there. They found a new sense of belonging and thank you. I mean, we get a lot of just thank you for what you do because it's made a world of difference in their lives. We've got a guy on our board right now that was in a bad place. He spiraled out after coming home from Iraq and got into drugs and alcohol and seriously contemplated ending his life and finally decided I need help. And somewhere along the line ended up at the lodge And after just a 4-day weekend, called and said, I've been to the VA, I've been to doctor's appointments, I've been to other places. Nothing touched me like being at Wings of Valor Lodge. I am changed, and it's got me on the right path. And this guy is now an ambassador and on our board. That's how much it changed.
Very nice.
So those things are happening on every other weekend out at Wings of Valor. And like I said, we do an all-female hunt twice a year too. And that's the picture you're going to see with not very many birds sitting on the ground. I hate to say it, but them gals are not good shots. Sorry if you're watching. I kind of apologize, but Mike, if you resemble that remark, I apologize.
I'd be standing right there beside him like.
You'd be standing with them.
Maybe we need to get a blanket that looks like pheasants to lay down, so it looks like they hit something.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, my dad always got so he was like, he goes, I don't get you. You know, even when I was a young kid, I could shoot like a rifle at distance and even a handgun. And we'd go out and he'd set up the clay pigeon thrower, and I'd just sit there, and he goes, all you're doing is wasting shotgun shells. You're just wasting money. And I was like, I could never, I mean, I could hit something here and there, but I couldn't, this local shooting range where I grew up in Northwest Pennsylvania, and they put in like a sporting clays range where you could go in and walk through the woods. And it was, in Northwest Pennsylvania was like, grouse, and there were pheasants are more of a stock bird up in that area because of the weather. But, I just sit there, and he's like, all you do is just, he's like, back in that was in the late 80s, early 90s, he's like, well, there's another 25 cents. Well, you just dumped $20 worth of shotgun shells out in the middle of nowhere. And finally it was duck season, and he, you had to get a duck stamp and all that. And it was snowing, and we were sitting off a creek, and I can't even remember which creek it was now. It doesn't matter. And all of a sudden there was wood ducks going down the creek. And wood ducks aren't like a regular duck. They make a whistling noise, but they fly in a corkscrew pattern. And he said, they're coming down. And I just threw the shotgun up and shot, and all of a sudden this poor goes like that. And he goes, you hit one. And
He was amazed.
Perfect male wood duck. I mean, it was like one BB hit that duck and killed it. And he got that duck mounted. He got that duck mounted.
That's good mount.
He always wanted a wood duck mount, and he got it mounted.
Very nice.
That was my wood duck, and he goes, well, that's yours. I said, no, Dad, you always wanted one, so he had it. But I was, if something's right in front of me, I guarantee I'm going to hit it. But
yeah, we're trying something new this weekend because hunting season ended end of March. You thought, God, we got this nice lodge, we've got this facility, let's try something different. So we've got guys flying in today, and they're going walleye fishing on the Missouri River.
Very nice.
Saturday. So that'll be interesting.
Very cool.
To see if I think the weather's supposed to be a little cool but nicer, but I've heard the walleyes are biting, so it'd be nice to see if those boys get a haul of walleye, because they've got dinners planned, but they've got a backup. So if they catch enough, they're going to cook and eat the walleyes when they get back to the lodge. That's
very nice.
About an hour and a half drive down to the Missouri River from Parker, where the lodge is. Not horrible, but if the walleye are biting, I don't know where you're all from, but I know Pennsylvania. But if you've never had walleye, it has got to be one of the best.
That's the best.
It is good.
Freshwater fish you could ever eat. Yep.
So we'll see how it goes. There'll be something online on the Facebook site or our website on how the walleye fishing goes. This is our first trial experiment at this. We'll see.
Well, I'm betting it's going to go really well, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we've got two
anytime
guys.
You're out hunting or fishing, you're good.
Yes. And that's the key. Getting somebody here to hunt or fish is the premise, but the real magic is sitting around the table telling stories or the fire pit.
Yeah.
Sharing experiences and realizing when you're done, you're not alone. You got a new friend, you got a new number, you got a new text message, somebody if you want.
That's right.
We always say that if once you're done here and you go home, and the darkness of what you experienced, which nobody else really knows or feels the same about, starts creeping in. You got somebody to call that says, yeah, I know what you're feeling, brother. I'm here for you. So
yeah,
that's a big deal. And that's happens a lot. So we're proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's one thing, Andrew,
that's awesome.
That's the whole point of his podcast is, record veteran stories, but how he brings, has brought so many people together. And it's really amazing. And you were talking about it, Scotty, that, you don't realize you miss it.
Yeah.
And I was reading an article. It wasn't a TikTok or a Facebook or anything like that. They were talking about the PTSD crisis in American veterans. But this study that's been going on, they started in 2010, and they started, as after, 03, 04, and there was a period of time where it was, everything was gangbusters in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
And then things kind of slowed down a little bit. But, there was a period of time that they started looking at, granted, these veterans had PTSD. They were diagnosed with it. They could guarantee they had PTSD. But the biggest issue, the biggest epidemic, and they called it an epidemic, is once you've served as a veteran, didn't matter whether you served in a combat situation or, a peaceful time, it's that lack of, first of all, the structure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Very
it's a
true.
lack of the camaraderie where, like you were saying, you could literally sit there and say, what'd you have your damn eyes closed when you were pointing at that damn thing? And, you take it, somebody, like somebody I work with or somebody like that. And like, I have a response like, who the hell are you talking to?
Yeah.
But like, if you said it to me, I'd look at you like, yeah, you know what you can do with that too.
Yeah.
I have my eyes closed.
And in the end, we all know we'd take a bullet for each other if we had.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing is that, that's what I've told Andrew time and time again is just to sit here. And I know, I'm not a big talker, but then I do this and I'll sit and talk, and my wife's like, yeah, you go out of your way to not talk to anybody. But, I was just on vacation on a cruise ship and they have a veterans thing.
Yeah.
The first sea day, went down there and she went and was doing something. And all of a sudden she comes walking into the whiskey bar where it was at. And she goes, I saw her and I said, hey, she goes, you still here? And I was like, yeah. I'm talking with people that I had no clue, Army, Air Force, Navy, and obviously Marines, but we're all just sitting there BSing and telling stories and trying to outdo each other. And,
sure,
she was just sitting beside me laughing, and it was like, she goes, what is it with you guys? And I was like, her dad's retired Air Force.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm home. That's really what it is. It's like, I'm home. I'm surrounded by family.
You know what?
That's a good way of putting it.
What's amazing is we still get groups of Vietnam veterans out there that
no kidding
that will open up and tell you later, I've never shared that with anyone ever.
Yeah.
And it feels so good to be somewhere where I feel comfortable sharing that. And that's, as volunteers, our job is to shut up and listen and let them tell their story. And a lot of them guys got some stories that are just, that'll blow you away. And I can see how it's been bothering them for 50 years because they haven't really felt comfortable sharing it with anyone. That's pretty neat.
Yeah. And, and that's one thing I find is people bottle that stuff up, but once you get like even doing the podcast, even though we're not, right next to each other, we have a way to, you recognize another veteran and you're able to start to open up and be able to share those stories and things like that. And I find that almost every episode that I do, a veteran's like, well, I've never told that to anybody. And they're always amazed at all the stuff that they do or all the stuff that they say. But that's what I love about it. I mean, I get to hear some awesome stories. So it's great.
Neat. Well, thanks for letting me share mine.
Absolutely.
my grandkids aren't old enough to want to care yet, and my kids have heard it too many times. So it's always nice to tell somebody new.
Well, hey, it's going to be here forever. It's online, it's digital, it's archived. So we're doing good.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, hey, I think I want to do something a little different than I usually do on the Fireside Chats. I'm going to ask you some of the questions that I ask some of the guys that come on just to tell their story. But if you're good with that, I'm going to ask you some of those questions.
Sure. Fire away.
All right. Okay. What is your most embarrassing military moment?
Well, I would say one of them, and I learned a life lesson from it. I was sitting in a command and staff meeting, and the chaplain wasn't there. We had a female chaplain, and the XO, the executive officer, battalion XO, said, "Yeah, the chaplain's not here today." She usually started the meeting, and I was leaned back in my chair, and I whispered to one of the other company commanders, "Jesus Christ, where the hell is she? She's always gone." And the battalion commander slapped the table, and he pointed at me, and he said, "You do not talk when I'm in command of this meeting." And honest to God, I thought I was back in basic training, and I was getting fired, and I was going to get relieved from command. And honest to God, I was so embarrassed. I apologized. And after the meeting, he called me into his office, and I thought he was going to rip my ass. And I said, "Sir, I apologize. I am very sorry. I'll never let that happen again." He goes, "Oh, no, don't worry about it." He said, "I just did that for effect. I needed everybody else to understand that when I'm in it's my meeting and I want people to pay attention." He goes, "I knew you could handle it. So everybody nobody will ever do that again." And I was like, "You SOB, God, that was awful."
Yeah.
I still get
That's
ripped by
good.
those guys that I'm friends with. But the day I got yelled at by the battalion commander, boy, that was rough.
I love it. All right. What's your proudest military moment?
I've got some pictures of me. Well, I would say my proudest military moment was making lieutenant colonel, being a PE teacher out of Dakota Wesleyan in Mitchell, South Dakota, and being an OCS grad amongst a lot of, when you're an engineer, you're around a lot of civil, mechanical, electrical engineers from West Point and some prestigious colleges. But honest to God, if you surround yourself with smart people and shut up and let them do their job and get them the resources they need to succeed, you can be successful. I would say my proudest military moment was the day my dad pinned because he was Navy retired. My dad pinned my lieutenant colonel, my silver oak leaf clusters on. I was pretty proud of that moment.
Very nice. I like it.
Thanks.
All right. If you could be one military leader for a day, who would that be?
Boy, I think I'd like to be I don't think I'd want to be the SecDef because that's not really a military. He's more of a civilian guy. But I think the Joint Chiefs of Staff, just for one day to be the head of the Joint Chief of Staff, just to pull all the services in and go, you know what? Let's don't ever forget that our job is to make sure that soldiers have the tools they need to succeed. And when the first time you think you're more important than that Joe down in that fighting position with a rifle defending our country, you've lost focus on what's important. I think that would be a neat job to have for a day, just to be able to tell people to remember where you came from and remember what's important.
Yeah, I like it. All right, that's a good one. All right, if you could change one rule in the military, what would it be?
Boy, one rule in the military, that's a tough one. I think I honest to God, I feel bad for, and I think we're changing that, but it's going to make me sound like a bad guy. Females serving in combat arms. I want, if I'm an infantry commander, I want my infantry squads, who are the backbone of our military, to be able to fight an enemy and be successful. And sometimes you don't want a guy with a 110 GT score or, a higher IQ to do that. You need somebody that's going to take orders and maybe face danger and not question it. And then you put a female in a foxhole with them, and that guy does something that he doesn't even realize is wrong. And next thing you know, he's being chaptered out of the military. And that just bothers me. I think if we kept the females into the support roles and out of the combat arms, especially the infantry and artillery, I think we would be better off, but that's just me. Sorry if I offended anyone, but I just think that there are some females, don't get me wrong, that can do everything a man can do, but I think when you put a male and a female together for a long period of time, something's liable to happen, and unfortunately, that male soldier's probably going to feel the brunt of it at some point. So
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that and also, it's a natural instinct.
Yes.
For most males is to want to protect.
Yeah.
Women, and I've known a lot of women in the Marine Corps that didn't need protecting, but it's, it's kind of proven that that's your natural instinct is to want to protect, and it's, we sit there and say, hey, brother this, brother that, but then that's your sister. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. I agree 100% with you. But
it is what it is.
Yeah. The famous saying right there.
Yeah, and I'm not in anymore, so it doesn't matter to me, I guess.
All right. What is one lesson or skill you learned that you still use today?
I would say time management. When you're an officer, you're busy, and you've got to learn how to manage your resources. And one of your critical resources is the amount of time you have. Fortunately, in retirement, it isn't a quintessential part of being effectively retired, but when I start a project, my wife gives me tiling a room or building a fence. I work a timeline out. I look at my resources. I evaluate my skills and capabilities, and I know when to ask for help, which is also a good thing. Know your enemy, know yourself. And if your enemy is your insufficiencies in doing something, then get somebody else to do it. Otherwise, it's not fun. So I would say the skill I learned is time management and planning.
I like it. Yeah, those are two good ones right there. That's for sure.
Yeah. My wife always tells me, she goes, you over plan. It's like, what do you mean over plan? She goes, well, so-and-so, they completely put new flooring down and painted and all that in a weekend. I'm like, well, I'm not so-and-so. I literally write stuff out. I'm like, all right, pull the baseboards up. I got to get the flooring up. I got to I'm going to paint first, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that.
That's pretty well planned out. Yeah.
Yeah, I read a whole plan of the day for, it's like a 30-day. It's like, okay, do this and I'll do that.
I love it. Oh, man. All right. In the zombie apocalypse, what would be your weapon of choice and what anthem would be playing?
Man, that's a good one. Right away I go to the Gatling gun, but I think I'd go with picturing Rambo with that M60 and the freaking belts around his arm. I mean, he had 100 rounds and he shot 82,000 times, but an endless supply of belted M60 rounds, I think would be a perfect one. And what anthem would be playing? I think Toby Keith would put a boot in your ass. It's the American way. Let's do it.
Yeah. That's good. That's a good one.
It's knee deep in shell casings and links, right?
That's right. All right. What animal best describes your time in service?
Oh my God. That's a good one. Like I said, I was a PE teacher amongst engineers, so I would say a lost sheep. Just trying to figure it out, man. I was maybe that isn't accurate enough, but just trying to make I realized that I had to surround myself by smart guys. And when I was in command, I had civil engineers from West Point and Ohio State and chemical engineer from Notre Dame. These guys were brilliant.
Dang.
And as long as I could give them the resources they need to succeed and let them go and take care of soldiers, that to me, and I was a lost sheep trying to fit in with a lot of engineers, but figured out really quickly that people skills are important. You know what, you realize what makes your soldiers happy. One guy wants a medal, one guy just wants a day off because he's got a wife and kids. You learn that stuff and you give them what makes them happy and you reward them for a job well done. And God dang, they'll take a bullet or run through a wall for you every time. That's awesome.
Very true. Very true. I like it. All right. Which branch of the military has the sexiest uniform?
Navy. That Navy white uniform is just too cool. That's
Okay.
what lured me to the military, though I didn't get into the Navy. But I don't know. I think they look when Tom Cruise comes walking out in that white uniform, they just looking good, man. Now I sound like somebody else.
Tom Cruise makes everything look good. That's
I was just going to
say
the problem is they don't look like Tom Cruise, so that's
that's true too. Yeah, I think I grew up Navy, so seeing that white uniform to me is part of my heritage.
Yeah.
So that's the one
I got to be honest. The whites look good. The whites look good. I wouldn't want to wear it because there's no way I'd keep it clean. But the whites do look good.
No, I can wear BDUs. And you can see stuff on them. So, yeah, wearing white would not work.
All right. What branch of the service is the best?
By God, the Army.
Yeah.
Okay. I think everybody has to admit that. There's you go. I took logic class twice in college because I didn't pass it the first time. Anyone with half a brain would have to agree that the Army is the greatest and best service in the military. How's that?
That was good. Us crayon eaters may disagree, but you're doing good. You're doing
God
good.
Bless you. Well, we have a similar mission. That makes us a little.
That's true.
Too. Killing the bastards that need killing.
Oh man! Knowing what you know now, would you do it all over again?
Absolutely, in a heartbeat. I miss it, and I would do it again. Absolutely, in a heartbeat.
Love it. Well, I give this time for you to give some words of wisdom, something that you have for our listeners. I can let Mike go first, and he can give some words of wisdom, and then let you go, and we'll just kind of go from there. Mike, what do you got?
Well, this one's from Mark Twain. It says, if you tell the truth, you don't have to ever have to worry about remembering anything.
Nice.
Ooh, that's very true. Yeah, that's good.
That'd be good advice to my ex-wife.
Now,
unless we want to start drinking, that conversation's off limits.
Okay, all right.
Oh man, that was good. That was good. I've been drinking a little bit, so I'm having a good time. But all right, Scott,
words
go
of
ahead.
wisdom?
Words of wisdom, whatever you got for the listeners.
I'll tell you what I write on everyone's graduation card or sign-in book is to work hard, have fun. If you enjoy what you're doing, working hard is fun. And find the old adage, find a job you love. You'll never work a day in your life. That goes with everything. Have some passion.
Yeah.
Enjoy what you do, have passion. And for the military people watching, be proud of your service. And if you're not a member of a service organization, find one and join. You won't regret it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. Good words. I like that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, thanks for coming on and doing this, sharing your story, and also talking about Wings of Valor Lodge. I love what you guys got going on up there. That's really cool. Now, how could the listeners help out? Your nonprofit. So I imagine, and I don't know this 100%, but I imagine you're raising money at some point in time. How could they help you out?
Oh, the easiest way is to go to our website, and here's two things. Go to our website. If you want to donate, click donate, or just find me and click on my email and ask me a question about it. If you want, I'll answer you. The other thing is, if you're a veteran and you want to come to a pheasant hunt, even if you've never hunted pheasants, especially for you two, I'll tell you, click on join a hunt, and then somebody will call you, do a little vetting, not much, just make sure you're who you say you are. And if you want to come to a hunt, we'll get you in the queue and try and find a date when you can fly in, and we will pick you up. We'll house you. We'll feed you. You can shoot birds. You can meet some other incredible veterans and have a great time. So I'll promote that first and foremost is click on the join a hunt. And then second, if you want to donate, you got some extra cash you're looking to give to an organization. Again, 100% of your donation goes to support veterans. There's no payroll. There's no admin dues. There's nothing. We use every penny. It takes about $400,000 a year to run Wings of Valor Lodge.
Oh, wow.
I don't mind saying that because people are like, how much does it cost to really to hunt pheasant? Well, it's expensive. So it is a constant. We have 2 big galas a year, one in March and one in August. There are big fundraisers, but they're just do a portion of it. The rest is just the trickle effect. People word of mouth,
right?
Get $100 here, $20 there, whatever. It's
yeah.
Our website's got a lot of good testimonials, and it'll tell you ways you can donate. Or, like I said, I'm on there under About Us. You'll find me. I got an email. Click on it and send me a note, and I'll answer any questions you have.
Yeah, and I'll attest. He does respond to emails and things, so I'll let everybody know that.
Good. Well, thanks.
Well, Scott, thanks for coming on and doing this, sharing. It's been a good time. I've really enjoyed myself. Hopefully you had a good time.
I did.
And hopefully we'll get you some either some veterans to go hunt, or we'll get you some donations. Well, I don't know. We're going to try both of those. So if you're out there, you know what to do. Scott told you, so go back and do it. So, all right. Well, at the end of every show, we always talk about veteran suicide and how we can help with that. The VA does have some great resources out there. You can always dial 988, press option 1. You can always text 838-255, or you can go to veteranscrisisline.net and click on the chat icon. Any of those options will put you in contact with somebody that can help you out. But remember, one veteran life loss is one too many. I care about you. Scott cares about you. Mike cares about you. The whole veteran community cares about you. So please reach out for help. And if you're out there, you're not struggling, reach out to the buddies you serve with. Ask them how they're doing. And if they need that helping hand, please give it to them. All right. One last time, Scott, Mike, thank you guys for coming on and doing this. Much appreciated. To all the listeners out there, stay motivated. Change your socks.
Oh, I miss